if you have a very inexperienced manager on the bench.
Well, we know all about this because Ozil famously doesn't travel up north for away games. Look what that's ended up in. Like, it is a dangerous trend, a dangerous precedent to start, right? So what was the given reason why he didn't travel? He just didn't want to, it can't be that he didn't want to travel.
There was no given reason. Pirlo just said that they analyzed the game and they wanted to ask Cristiano Ronaldo for the Champions League, but at the same time, they had already qualified for the Champions League. But, well, Cristiano Ronaldo was really looking forward to his 750th career goal. Maybe he wanted that to be in the Champions League. I don't know. But the fact, in my opinion, if a player is fit, you're always going to take that player to the game that you're going to be playing. Because it's very clear now that if Juventus are in dire straits, all you need to do is bring in Cristiano Ronaldo and you will come up with an answer. In Benevento, they didn't. Also, an interesting thing about the Benevento game, two former teammates, Pirlo and Inzaghi.
That was nice to see, right?
It was nice to see. But you know what was very interesting? It was the different attitude between Inzaghi on the sideline and Pirlo. Inzaghi, he started with AC Milan, then he coached Venezia, then he coached Benevento. He's gained some experience. He coached Bologna as well. You can see that he's very at ease with his position. And at a point, he even invaded Pirlo's box. So you know that box that they have, those lines? He even invaded Pirlo's box to give directions to the players. And you see Pirlo just looks around and doesn't really know what to do. I feel like if Pirlo had done the same thing, Inzaghi would have screamed at him. And so I feel like Pirlo is lacking a bit of personality. Let's not forget, this is his first job, but it doesn't always go Zidane's way.
Well, I think I saw that Inzaghi said something about that at the weekend. Didn't he say something like, I wasn't given the best job straight away? I'm sure he made a comment about it after the game. Kind of pointed at Pirlo and said, look, I wasn't handed everything on the plate. This guy's been given the best job he's ever going to have straight away. So I think...
Which could, however, turn into a nightmare,
Of course.
A nightmare job.
That definitely comes with pitfalls, right? Definitely comes with pitfalls. And I think maybe we're going to see Pirlo fall into one of those pitfalls.
And that's what happened. That's what happened to Inzaghi on his first real coaching job at AC Milan. But then he had the determination to keep going and to not stop there. But I feel like a failure at Juventus for a team that is looking for their 10th straight title, that could be very, very bad for Pirlo. I'm
just going to quickly call it. They're not going to get it this season.
Well, let's hope it's not AC Milan, right?
I think Juventus aren't going to do it, and I think Milan are. I've got a brave, because I was talking about this midweek, and I'm sorry, but this will be funny, because everyone has, I think for a while, Inter fans have assumed that they're going to be the one who breaks the 10-year run. It'll be like, Juve will win it, but then Inter will be the next one. I just think, no, not to upset you too much, Tommy, but I think it'd be quite funny if Milan just strolled along and finished the streak and you're like, unlucky boys. No,
funny is not the right adjective, but yeah, it would be interesting.
Interesting. Quirky.
But just a quick comparison with last year. So after 9 games last year, Juventus were first with 23 points. This year they're fourth with 17, so 6 less than last year. Last year they had 7 wins, 2 draws, and 0 losses. This year they've got 4 wins, 5 draws, and still 0 losses. They're not looking as convincing. And last year, people were using the stick against Sarri's Juventus.
I was just about to say, people were saying Sarri was crap, right? And he was like, get him out of the job, he's not worthy of it. Well, you didn't know how good you had it.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. While Inter, who are still getting a lot of stick. So last year, at this point in the season, Inter were second with 22 points, 7 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss. 20 goals scored and 9 conceded. This year, they're second with 18 points, so 4 less than last year. 5 wins, 3 draws, and 1 loss, so more draws compared to last year. But also 23 goals and 13 against. Now, isn't it crazy that nobody talks about the team that has scored the most goals in Serie A? Because I can guarantee you that if it was Atalanta, people would be talking about that. If it was Juventus, people would be like, well, they're in dire straits, but look at their goal scoring. Inter, it seems like it's always a problem. And I will put myself on the line as the first person who always criticizes Inter. Now, this is typical of Inter fans. We criticize our team very, very harshly. But then we take a step back when we see that the entire country, the entire media keeps focusing on Inter. When Juventus draw a game with Pirlo, it's always fun and giggles. Oh, well, it's his first job. Oh, well, what did you expect? Oh, well, Cristiano Ronaldo was not there. When Inter fail, when Inter draw a game, when Inter don't play so convincingly, the stick comes, and it's very, very harsh. So this is just to tell Inter fans, in my opinion, I feel like Rory has got something to say that will go against what I was saying. But just to tell Inter fans, at the end of the day, we still have a possibility to qualify for the round of 16. We are still competing in the league because we're second behind AC Milan. They won against us, so of course they've got more than 3 points advantage. But hey, it's the beginning of the season and things are going okay.
Yeah, I just feel like, of course, you get hit with a stick when you're a more experienced manager. Of course you do.
Like, that's what happens. When he earns 12 million a year, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think that those are all part of, if you take the £12 million fucking wage, you should expect the stick to be hit or to be hit with the stick pretty fucking hard. It's the same thing. It's along the same lines of something that happened in the Premier League this weekend with Klopp mouthing off about his players not being able to rest because they played Wednesday and Saturday, and it was midday on Saturday, which, okay, it's a quick turnaround, but also, mate, they need it for the Asian market, for the Premier League money. If you're taking that money, sometimes it's not going to go your way. There has to be some rough with the smooth, and that's part of the rough, is that you have to bend to these schedules, right? With Conte, you have to accept more scrutiny when you're a more experienced manager. For Pirlo, you're going to get let off a little bit more. Like Arteta is getting let off a little bit more because it's his first management job. The same thing is happening with Pirlo. I think for Pirlo to be doing this unconvincing a job at Juve is worrying, and he should be getting a bit more stick. But of course, Conte is going to be under more pressure and under more scrutiny. He's one of the best Italian managers.
We were Europa League finalists last year, another thing that nobody ever mentions.
That is a fair point. Against Sevilla, and they own the cup. So
let's go. I do understand though that the stick is even harsher because we were Europa League finalists, and you would expect us to walk through this group. But okay, it's a little tough. Hopefully next week I'll be recording this episode and Inter will finally be in the round of 16. Just to wrap up the Serie A, we had a few questions on our Twitter, whether we think if Atalanta are going to finish top 4 in the league. Honestly, I don't think so. Rory, what do you say?
No, I don't think so. I think there's much better teams than them this year. I think Roma are looking really good. Napoli, up until this weekend, Napoli are looking really convincing. And then you're looking at Milan and Inter, and of course Juventus. I think Atalanta are just going to fall out of that group this year. The other question I remember was from Calcio Football, maybe, about Fiorentina.
From FT LOL podcast, actually. Yeah.
FT LOL podcast. Sorry, guys. I got mixed up in my head. What do we think, Tommy? Fiorentina going to drop?
Well, Fiorentina were very close to dropping last year, and I want to say it was 2 years ago. So that discussion has been in place for quite some time. Well, now they've got Prandelli, but he hasn't really delivered anything since he's been back. Well, only 2 games, and he has been out of management for quite some time. Let's see. I do think that Fiorentina have a very good squad. They just need to find the right person to make that ensemble work.
Can you imagine Ribery getting relegated? A squad with Ribery getting relegated, that would be insane, right?
That would be a good trivia in the future.
Yeah,
he got relegated once in the Serie A. Who is it? Oh, Ribery. Oh shit! Right with Fiorentina.
That's exactly. Can you imagine? That's crazy.
But I don't have a second team. But I've always liked Fiorentina. I like their kids. I love Florence as a city, and if I can do anything to help Fiorentina stay up, talk well about them, I don't know. But no,
keep the morale up. Come on, boys.
I really don't think they're going to be relegated. I mean, Crotone is the usual suspect. I mean, they're doing terribly. Torino, I don't understand why they haven't sacked their manager yet, Paolo. But yeah, there are worse teams, but they do have to be careful. I feel like they now need a string of convincing results in order to have the belief in themselves.
Yeah, I think the other team that I think should be worried is Genoa. I think they look really, really lost. They've got a kind of big game coming up this weekend, I think, and they're the team that I would kind of back to make the drop this year.
Yeah, to drop.
To drop this year is probably the most sensible way to say it. Yeah, good. I think were there any more questions?
I don't know, guys. Any more questions? No, I'm not hearing of anybody. But no, thank you very much to all the people who commented under our tweet. Yeah, I was going to say Twitter post, but there is a word for that, under our tweet. And we hope to have answered your questions. And now we might be ready to test Rory's footballing knowledge.
I am so determined to do better this week. I really feel like I let myself down the first time.
Let's make it happen then.
With that in mind, now you get to hear me embarrass myself. So let's go.
Timeline up. Let's go, baby. And welcome back to Timeline Up, the incredible soccer trivia that half of the world hasn't figured out how to play yet. Well, there was a part that was very complicated. How many guesses do you get at the end to guess the full lineup? Well, our friend Rory has just come up with the answer.
Yeah, I've gone for the classic 3 lives and you're out. So once you have 3 wrong guesses, you are no longer allowed any more guesses. So I've somehow probably made it more difficult for myself. But here we go. I'm feeling confident-ish. I'm determined to save some face, restore some dignity. Let's go.
So, 4 events in football history. One of these will be a game. And Rory has to put these 4 events in chronological order. And at the end, he will have a possibility to try and guess the lineup of one of the 2 teams that I'm going to be mentioning. Rory, are you ready?
I've got my pen. I've got my notebook. Let's do it.
So we've got 3 players, okay, and 1 game. Okay. So the first question is, the first event is Zlatan Ibrahimovic is traded on loan to AC Milan from Barcelona. So this is our first event. The second event is legendary Filippo, known as Pippo Inzaghi, retires from football. Then we've got an Inter-Liverpool that Inter would lose 0-1 at the San Siro in the Champions League. And finally, Antoine Griezmann signs for Atletico Madrid. These are our 4 events. How are you feeling, Rory?
I don't have a fucking clue. Right.
No,
Griezmann,
come on. You can't not have a single clue.
Atleti. Right. Zlatan loan to Milan. What was his first stint in Milan? That was before. So he was at PSG before LA Galaxy. Then before PSG, he was at Milan, I think.
Your face is too funny. What about Griezmann signing for Atletico?
I'm trying to think where they signed it. They signed it from Sociedad, right?
Exactly.
The current La Liga leaders. Let's say that's got to be 2010, 2011, around that time, maybe. Because he was at Atletico for a good while. He was at Atletico for a while.
He was at Atletico for, well, I will not tell you for how many years he was at Atletico.
No, that might help, actually, if you could. Yeah. That might help.
Yeah.
People retiring, I think that's mid-2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Late 2000s, because he played the Istanbul final. That was 2005. So maybe... I just saw Mingus jump into shot.
Well, sorry, these thoughts that you just heard was my cat very gracefully jumping on top of my laptop. And then once I picked her up and put her to the ground, she knocked over my beer. So now my socks are moist in beer. Yes, let's go. All right. So, yeah.
So I say late 2000s for people.
And what about Inter-Liverpool? 0-1.
Liverpool, I think... 0. I don't know.
It was round of 16.
Yeah. I've honestly not a clue with that one.
I know, listeners that you're more familiar with the games Liverpool played against the other team in Milan, but this time we're going to talk
I'm going to be basing that date off when I